A homeless black woman walked into the bank and everyone laughed, not knowing she was the billionaire owner in disguise. It was the moment three First National Bank employees made the biggest mistake of their careers. "Security! Get that beggar out of here before she scares away the customers!" shouted Jessica, the blonde manager, pointing with disgust at the black woman who had just entered the main hall. Her worn sneakers, torn coat, and the plastic bag in her hands seemed to tremble in the cold air conditioning. Violet Washington had woken up that day determined to conduct a test. After decades of building a financial empire, she wanted to see for herself how her own employees treated the most vulnerable. Her disguise was perfect: thrift store clothes, unkempt hair, and the stooped posture of someone who carries the weight of life on their shoulders. "Please, I just need to withdraw some money," Violet murmured, approaching the main counter where Jessica was typing frantically, completely ignoring her presence. The teller, Tyler, let out a cruel laugh. "Withdraw from where? The dump? Look at the smell this old woman brought in." The words echoed across the polished marble, causing other customers to look at her with a mixture of embarrassment and morbid curiosity. The third employee, Amanda, didn't even look up from her computer screen. "Jess, call the police. These homeless people are getting too bold. They think they can walk in anywhere." Violet remained motionless, her eyes observing every face, every reaction, every gesture of contempt. Inside, a mixture of sadness and determination grew like a silent storm. She had built that institution with a promise of serving the entire community, especially the underprivileged. "Ma'am, you need to leave. This is a customer establishment," said the security guard, a large man who approached reluctantly, his discomfort with the situation clear on his face. "I am a customer," Violet replied, her voice suddenly carrying a tone of authority that made Jessica finally look up from her screen. "I've held an account here for over 50 years. Tyler's laughter grew even louder and more cruel. "50 years? I bet you didn't even know what a bank was 50 years ago." Jessica joined in the laughter, shaking her head in mock pity. "Auntie, go find social services. This is a place for working people." What they did not know was that Violet Washington was not just another customer. She was the founder and principal shareholder of First National Bank, the owner of a vast multi-billion-dollar fortune. As they laughed, her latest model iPhone vibrated discreetly in the inside pocket of her torn coat, delivering a stream of messages from CEOs, meeting requests, and financial reports moving millions of dollars. "Very well," Violet said with an unsettling calm, taking a few deliberate steps back. "I'll handle this another way." Her eyes lifted to the security cameras strategically placed throughout the hall, each one meticulously recording every moment of her humiliation. As she walked toward the exit, Jessica shouted after her, "And don't come back! Next time, we won't hesitate to call the police." The heavy glass door closed behind Violet with a soft, definitive click. But the echo of those hateful words reverberated like a death sentence for the careers of the three individuals who had just signed their own professional resignations with their prejudice. Outside, under the scorching July sun, Violet retrieved the phone from her pocket and dialed a number known only to a handful of people in the world. "Marcus, it's me. I need you to come to the Fifth Avenue branch immediately and bring the blank resignation papers with you. If this story of deep-seated prejudice and clever revenge has touched your heart, you will not want to miss the next chapters. Subscribe to the channel, because what happened next was a lesson those three people would never forget. A powerful demonstration that underestimating a person based on their appearance can cost you infinitely more than just a job." Across the street, Violet watched through the window as Jessica celebrated excitedly with Tyler and Amanda. Through the glass, she could see the three employees laughing, mimicking her hunched posture and making exaggerated gestures as if they were telling a hilarious joke to their colleagues on the next shift. "Did you see how she ran away when I threatened to call the police?" Jessica gestured dramatically, clearly proud of her victory. "These homeless people need to learn to respect their place." Tyler recorded stories on social media, captioning, "Another day saving the bank from undesirables. Security first. Hardworking. The post already had dozens of likes from colleagues who found the situation funny. Amanda typed in the employees' group chat, "Guys, you missed the best part. A beggar tried to withdraw money here today. Jess sent her packing." Violet closed her eyes for a moment, remembering the day she signed the founding papers for that bank decades ago. She was a young black entrepreneur determined to create an institution that would serve the entire community, especially those rejected by the big banks. How many times had she herself been treated like that in other establishments? How many doors had been slammed in her face before she decided to build her own? "Miss Washington?" A soft voice interrupted her memories. Marcus Thompson, her personal advisor for many years, approached discreetly. He was one of the few people who knew all the secrets of Violet's financial empire. "I got your call. The papers are here." "Marcus, tell me something," Violet murmured, still watching the trio through the window. "Do you remember why we created the Financial Inclusion Program? To ensure that low-income people had access to the same banking services as any other customer," he replied immediately. "It was one of your first initiatives when the bank was still just one branch. And do you remember the slogan we chose for our mission?" Marcus smiled slightly. "Where every person is valued regardless of their background. It's engraved at the main entrance of all our branches." Violet nodded slowly. Interesting how some people choose to selectively ignore that. Back at the bank, Jessica had called the regional manager, Mr. Davidson, to report the security incident. "Sir, we need to increase surveillance. These homeless people are getting bolder. That old woman today even said she'd had an account here for 50 years. Can you imagine?" Davidson, a man with gray hair, laughed along with her. 50 years. She must have been a child when the bank was founded. "You did the right thing. We can't let them turn this place into a homeless shelter." "Exactly," Tyler added, getting excited. "I posted on my professional profile about how we maintain our service standards." "I already have hundreds of likes," Amanda chimed in. "My mom always says, 'Tell me who you hang out with,' and I'll tell you who you are. We can't normalize these kinds of people here." What none of them knew was that Violet Washington had grown up exactly like the kind of people they so despised. The daughter of a cleaning lady and a doorman, she had spent her entire childhood being looked down on in commercial establishments. She was followed around stores as if she were a potential thief and heard whispers about people who didn't know their place. As a teenager, she had promised herself that one day she would create spaces where human dignity would be respected regardless of appearance or bank account. First National Bank had been built on that promise, a promise that had just been shattered by its own employees. Marcus watched Violet's face gradually harden. "Miss, what do you intend to do?" "First," she began, her voice deceptively calm, "I want the customer service reports for the past several months. Specifically, every case of a customer who was poorly served or turned away without adequate justification." Marcus recognized that tone. It was the one she used before making decisions that reshaped entire companies. "Second," Violet continued, "I want a complete audit of the social media profiles of these 3 employees. I want every post, every story that could reflect negatively on the bank's reputation." "And third?" Marcus asked, already dreading the answer. Violet smiled for the first time in hours, but it wasn't a warm smile. It was the calculated smile of someone who had built a billion-dollar empire while facing this exact kind of prejudice. "Third, Marcus, you are going to help me discover who these people truly are. Because those who discriminate once, discriminate always. I have a feeling that what I witnessed was merely the tip of the iceberg." As she spoke, Tyler posted another photo on social media, this time imitating the hunched posture Violet had adopted. The caption read, "When you have to explain to the special ones that a bank is not a charity." The post was already gathering supportive comments and laughs from his circle of friends. He could not imagine that every like, every comment, every digital laugh was being carefully documented by someone who had the power to erase not only his job, but his entire future in the financial sector. Across the street, Violet put her phone in her pocket. "Marcus, they have no idea who they are dealing with, and that ignorance is going to cost them more than they can possibly imagine. Each new act of online mockery only fueled a determination forged over decades of fighting this very battle, a silent force growing with every cruel laugh, preparing a lesson those three employees would never forget. Several days had passed since the incident at the bank. Violet Washington hadn't slept a wink, not out of sadness, but because her analytical mind was processing every detail, every gesture, every word spoken in that marble hall. She had built a vast financial empire precisely through this ability to turn adversity into strategic opportunity. "Marcus, I need you to do something delicate," she said, sitting in her office at the very top of the Benson Financial Tower, the building that housed her company's headquarters. A panoramic view of the city stretched out before her, but her attention was completely focused on the three files scattered across the glass table. Marcus approached, carrying a tablet and several folders. "The reports you requested are here, and Miss Washington. What we found is disturbing." She opened the first file. "Jessica Miller. Manager for a couple of years? Tell me." Jessica has posted dozens of stories on social media over the past several months, mocking customers she deems unsuitable for the banking environment, Marcus reported. She runs a private chat group where she and other employees share photos of poorer, elderly, or minority customers, always with derogatory comments. Violet closed her eyes momentarily. Each revelation was a stab in the heart of the mission she had dedicated her life to building. "Continue." Tyler Johnson, the young teller, had built a significant following on social media, where he regularly posted videos ridiculing what he called financial losers. In one particularly cruel instance, he had secretly recorded an elderly woman struggling to understand a bank form, posting it with a mocking caption about mental decline. Marcus's voice trembled slightly as he reported that the video had garnered hundreds of thousands of views and a flood of cruel comments. The third dossier belonged to Amanda Foster. Her professional profile was pristine, but on her personal networks, she openly promoted divisive theories about people who supposedly deserved their poverty. She had written multiple posts arguing that banks should better filter their clientele and that some people were simply not cut out to succeed. Violet remained silent for several long minutes, processing the devastating information. Through the window, she watched the people on the sidewalks below, tiny dots moving through their daily lives, many of them likely customers of her institution, trusting they would be treated with dignity. "Marcus, what worries me most is not just these three," she said finally. "It's that they feel so comfortable acting this way publicly. That means this toxic culture has spread far beyond what we ever imagined." She stood up and walked to the wall, where she had framed the first photo of First National Bank, a small branch from its earliest days, with a much younger Violet cutting the ribbon. "I built this bank because I was just like the people they humiliate today. I grew up being followed in stores, being treated like a suspect anywhere I went." Marcus nodded. He knew the story well, but he had never seen Violet so emotionally invested in a single situation. "Miss, what do you intend to do?" "I can have them fired today." "No." Her response was firm and calculated. "Firing them is a simple administrative punishment. What they did requires a lesson that will be felt not only by them, but by anyone who thinks they can discriminate against other human beings without consequences." She returned to her desk and opened her laptop. "First, I want you to discreetly hire a top-tier behavioral auditing firm. I want a complete history, educational, professional, financial, digital, everything. Second, schedule a meeting with our compliance and legal departments immediately. I need to know exactly what laws were violated with these discriminatory posts, and I want legal precedents for employees fired for cause in similar situations." Marcus took notes quickly. "And third?" The smile that crossed Violet's face was the same one she wore before closing her most ambitious business deals. "Third, we are going to give them exactly what they deserve, a public lesson on the real consequences of prejudice. But first, they are going to hang themselves with their own ropes." At that very moment, across town, Jessica was posting another story. Just had to decline a loan application from someone who couldn't even speak the language properly. Sorry, but there's a standard to maintain. The banking reality. The post had already amassed hundreds of likes in less than an hour. Tyler, meanwhile, was in the bank's bathroom recording another TikTok. POV. You work at a prestigious bank and have to explain to a homeless man that he can't deposit soda cans. The comment section was an avalanche of laughing emojis and cruel remarks. Not to be outdone, Amanda had created a private online group where she shared photos of customers without their consent. Each post accompanied by bitter commentary about the decline of society and who was truly worthy of financial services. Marcus, Violet said, her voice calm as she watched the notifications pour in on the real-time monitoring system. They are making our job easier. Every post, every laugh, every moment of cruelty is being documented and time-stamped. When the moment of truth arrives, they themselves will have provided all the evidence we need. She continued with that calculated tone he knew so well, and the most interesting part is that they have no idea who they are truly dealing with. To them, I am just an old homeless woman they kick to the curb. They don't realize they are provoking a person who can not only end their careers, but ensure they never work in the financial sector again. As she spoke, her assistant entered with another report. Miss Washington, the results of the behavioral audit you requested have arrived. Violet opened the envelope, and for the first time in days, a genuine smile touched her lips. Marcus, you won't believe what we just uncovered. It turns out our 3 model employees have some very interesting issues in their backgrounds that perfectly explain their behavior. She turned the report around for him to see. Jessica is drowning in debt and is months behind on her rent. Tyler was fired from 2 previous jobs for inappropriate conduct with customers. And Amanda? Well, Amanda falsified her references and never possessed the qualifications she claimed to have. The most profound irony, Violet continued, flipping through the pages, is that they are all exactly the kind of people they so openly judge and despise, people with financial difficulties, troubled work histories, and complicated personal situations. The only difference is that they managed to hide it long enough to secure positions that gave them a fleeting illusion of superiority. Marcus shook his head, stunned by the sheer poetic justice of the situation. And now, Violet said, closing the report and looking out at the city below, we are going to show them that underestimating someone based on their appearance could be the most costly mistake of their lives. Because when you humiliate the wrong person, you are not just destroying a moment, you are destroying your own future. But as Violet finalized her plans, an unexpected development was unfolding at the bank. Tyler had just received an anonymous message on his Instagram that would change the entire game, turning this calculated revenge into something far bigger than anyone could have imagined. The anonymous message Tyler had received the night before still burned in his mind. Are you sure you know all your bank's customers? Some appearances can be very deceiving. Be careful who you humiliate. He had tried to trace the sender, but the account was fake. A low-grade paranoia had been gnawing at him ever since. The following Tuesday morning, a sleek black limousine pulled up in front of First National Bank. Violet Washington stepped out, this time dressed in an elegant navy blue suit, her hair perfectly coiffed and an Italian leather briefcase in her hand. Marcus followed, carrying 2 suitcases and a tablet. Jessica was the first to notice. Tyler, look at this, she whispered. I bet she's some VIP coming for special treatment. She smoothed her hair and fixed a professional smile on her face, the same one she had never offered the disheveled woman days before. Good morning, Violet said calmly as she approached the counter. I'd like to speak with Mr. Davidson. Please inform him the bank's owner is here. Jessica let out a nervous laugh. I'm sorry, ma'am, but there must have been a misunderstanding. The owner? This is a branch of First National Bank, a major corporation. I know exactly what bank this is, Violet interrupted, her voice carrying an icy authority, considering I founded it myself decades ago. The smile vanished from Jessica's face. Tyler, who had moved closer, felt a strange familiarity in the woman's voice. Amanda stopped typing and stared, a cold chill running down her spine. Marcus, Violet said calmly, Please show them my identification and the bank's founding documents. Marcus opened one of the briefcases, producing official documents and a corporate ID card. It read, Violet Washington, founder and principal shareholder of First National Bank. The world seemed to stop. Jessica's eyes darted from the photo on the ID to Violet's face and back again. Tyler began to tremble visibly. Amanda covered her mouth with her hands, a soft, repetitive, "Oh my God!" escaping her lips. "Impossible," Jessica stammered. You were here last week, but you were dressed like a homeless person." Violet offered a cold, finished smile. "Yes, Jessica Miller. I was testing how my employees treat our most vulnerable customers. And you failed. Spectacularly." Tyler tried to speak, but no words came out. His legs felt weak, and he leaned heavily on the counter for support. Amanda began to cry silent tears. "Marcus," Violet commanded, "please show them the compilation we've prepared." Marcus turned on a portable screen and began to play the videos. First, the security footage from the humiliation days before. Then, Tyler's Instagram stories mocking Violet. Next, Jessica's discriminatory posts. Finally, Amanda's prejudiced comments on social media. "My God," whispered Mr. Davidson, who had rushed over upon hearing the commotion. His face was as white as a sheet. "Madam Washington, I didn't know. They never told me." "Of course they didn't tell you, Mr. Davidson," Violet replied, her gaze unwavering, "because they knew they had committed a gross violation of our core principles." She turned her attention back to the three employees who were now visibly shaking. "You engaged in social discrimination, violation of basic human rights, non-consensual exposure of customers, and used social media to promote hatred against vulnerable groups." Jessica's legs gave way, and she collapsed to the floor.